Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to my channel, Nelly the Narcissist. This is the home of podcasts and comedy, where I explore the world of narcissistic relationships in my very candid comedy portrayals. And these are designed to be healing for all survivors. And in these podcasts, I look at also narcissistic abuse and NPD through a down-to-earth and spiritual lens that's also honouring the psychology. In today's video, I want to look at the downfall of the narcissist, and it's really important to remind people about this because when you've been subjected to the destruction of a narcissistic individual in your life, you can often feel like they've got away with what they've done and they've left you in a wreck. And of course, this is what they have done, but we can think that they get away with things. And although some people are going to disagree, for me, I believe it's actually the narcissist that is one of the biggest victims of their own narcissism, which they will never, ever get away from. They will run, but there's no escape because they're going to find themselves wherever they go. And they will always actually think that they're running from somebody else. But they are their own worst enemy. And life simply cannot work out for them in the long run. And as survivors, we all need a reminder of why this is. So I'm going to be sharing several points. I've actually made 5 that I can see create and lead to the narcissist downfall. And if you appreciate this video and you want to help me out, then please do like, share, and consider subscribing. And do comment your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think, because this can also help other survivors that are here in this community. So the downfall of the narcissist is actually the narcissist. And although some of you may find that very hard to believe, because the way that they live life, doesn't it destroy everybody else? And doesn't it benefit them? Well, it does in some ways, but it really doesn't in other ways. And although they do colossal damage to everybody around them, and they're very manipulative and they're pretty clever, there are also so many ways that NPD serves to bring these people to their knees and flat on their faces. Have you ever heard of that expression, pride and ego before a fall? It's very true. And what are narcissists built upon and based upon? Pride and ego, which means they're built for a fall. So let's start off, first of all, with the superficial level of narcissistic relationships. And this is actually a big problem for the narcissist, because the moment that they are in one place and stable with one person, and perhaps even, they formed an attachment to that person's supply, and they finally found some level of regulation, because that's the role of others and that's the role of supply, to regulate someone that cannot regulate themselves. And the person in the relationship with narcissist obviously forms an attachment to the narcissist. And like you and I, probably really loved and saw the vulnerability, saw the need for love, and did everything that they could for them. And yes, it did feed their narcissism and it gave them supply, although we didn't know at the time that we were doing that. But genuinely, on a deeper level, we loved and we wanted to give our love, our loyalty, our help to somebody because of our own hearts. And you may have done a lot for the narcissist. You may have given them a lot. But not only am I talking about in a financial way, you gave of your heart and you gave of your devotion to what you perceived as a relationship. And you bent over backwards to be of service because you thought that was love. You thought to be of service and to help somebody was to be of love, especially when they expressed a need. But what did the narcissist do with all of your loyalty and all of your love and all of the help? They turned around and they completely trashed it. They trashed you. They treated you appallingly. It wasn't deserved. Their level of unkindness and cruelty was in no way justifiable because you had done nothing apart from love them. And they treated you with absolute contempt. They spat venom in your face and they dumped you at the side of the road, because in their minds you weren't good enough for them. And they went off to find somebody that was better. But the truth be known, this was never about you. But every single victim of narcissistic abuse takes this trashing so personally, because the narcissist makes sure that it's very, very personal. It's their intent of hurting you. But what happens when you treat somebody like this, when all that they've done is love and care for you, and you keep on treating the people that love and care for you in the same way? You're going to end up with absolutely nobody. Because even if you do love the narcissist, even if you do even toy with the idea of returning, you know in your heart It's going to be the exact same thing. You can't forgive, you can't forget. You're unable to turn around and go back for round 2. And I know some people do go back for round 2, but in any case, everybody gets to a point where they have to get off the merry-go-round because it's the same repetition. And the narcissist is doing this. It's not personal. It's everybody. And so they can never, ever form a healthy relationship. They can never, ever have a real relationship. They can never, ever experience love's depths because there's no depth that can be reached because a narcissist is too afraid. They keep everything on the level of the surface. Nothing actually goes through to them as a real person because the real person, who knows where the real person is? The false self is the barrier that keeps in their mind reality out, that keeps everything out that they don't want in because they see it as a threat. And unfortunately for them, that's also love. They can never be nourished by that because they don't even want it. They don't want love. They don't want the healing and they don't want the medicine. Because to them, love is held in contempt. It's not something that you can trust. It's not something that's useful or beneficial. They're actually happy just to destroy everything and everyone. And this cycle never stops. It never, ever, ever stops. They do this to everybody. So don't be thinking that they've gone off and they're happy with their new supply. It's temporary. It's always temporary because there's always cycles in narcissistic abuse. It's push, pull. They pull you close to them, first of all. And then as the devaluation starts, they start to push you away. And through this trashing, which then eventually leads to your discard, which then eventually usually leads to your hoovering because they recycle old supplies all of the time. Because you see, they need narcissistic supply. And so people are just surface level supplies to the narcissist. There's no bond because you need love for a deep bond between two people. It's not abuse that bonds you, but narcissists, they don't know any other way to relate, to get their needs met other than to abuse and to maintain power. They will never let go of their desire for power and control. But really, it's love that is everything. But the narcissist doesn't know that. And if you don't have love in your life or in your heart, you really got nothing. And your life is totally lifeless. It's totally empty. And when you go around life treating good, honest, loyal, and kind people the way that they do, they're going to end up with nobody in the end. And that really is one of their biggest downfalls. It's how they go about life. They're completely ill-equipped for living because they believe the only way to live and to get on in life is to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, and scheme and take. They are the villain in so many stories, in so many people's lives. And the villain will not have a beautiful ending. The villain will meet their own sad karmic fate, as spoken by Paramahansa Yogananda. Now, one of his disciples asked him, well, if God loves everybody, what does it matter if you're good or bad? What does it matter what you do and what choices you make? If we're all going to be loved equally in the eyes of God, what's the point of making an effort to be virtuous? Because being virtuous does require effort. It does require courage and introspection and selflessness. And it's not always what you want, but you may need to make a choice against your own desires because it's not right or it's not the good thing. Whereas you see, being bad, being evil, it requires zero effort. You just do whatever you want. And Yogananda said, well, it's true. But if you play the villain, you're going to have to suffer the villain's end. And it's not going to be a celebration. It's going to be really sad. And I know that this is true for the narcissist. And when you have a lot of love within you and you see how they're going about things, you can see that it's glaringly obvious. But they're a victim of their own power-hungry, grandiose, self-absorbed delusions in exactly the same way that character Gollum in Lord of the Rings is. They're totally trapped inside that darkness and they won't allow any light into it. And you know that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I know how literal this wisdom is because I grew up with horses. And even when it's super hot and you know how thirsty that horse is, because you can see it on the mouth, you can lead that horse to water, but you can never make it drink unless it wants to. There is another downfall for the narcissist. And I mean, there are actually a lot that I could list because everything about the narcissist is going to set them up for an eventual downfall. But another huge problem that they have is having no impulse control. And without impulse control, you are doomed. because you're destined to make really bad decisions based on the spur of the moment, based on the heat of the moment, based entirely on emotion. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem is emotion comes and goes. It's forever changing, and therefore what we feel in one moment isn't necessarily what we feel in another. And therefore, we cannot base our choices and decisions in life on emotion alone, because if we do that all of the time, it's going to be a disaster. And we learn, as we come into maturity, especially as women, we know this, because, we can become exceptionally emotionally driven at certain points in our monthly cycle. And as you grow in wisdom, you realize that you need to hold yourself back and be extra careful with your impulses. Now, all adults learn this is needed in the world, but children, they have no impulse control. And this is why they need adult supervision to make sure that they don't hurt themselves or get into trouble. The narcissist is an adult in physical form, yes, but internally they are children, just without the innocence. And they also require adult supervision. But you see, they don't want a supervisor. You could never even suggest that they need somebody, because that would go against their grandiosity and their control and their entitlement and their need for power. They want to be free to make their own terrible mistakes and choices, but they want somebody to pick up the pieces and deal with the collateral damage that they've caused through their lack of impulse control. And of course, that is actually nobody's responsibility other than the person that's created it and caused it, which is always the narcissist. But they're not going to associate themselves with any of the dirty stuff. So they go through lives like toddlers, but really nasty toddlers, running around with the same attitude that I'm going to take this because I want it. I want it. I want it. It's mine. It's mine. I can take whatever I want. No impulse control. And they believe that they should be able to have whatever they want, however much it costs, whatever consequences. They don't think about the consequences, ever. They just think, I want it now, so I'm going to have it now because that feels good in this moment. So they're always motivated by their emotions. But that's always going to lead to really bad results, because they can find out that they've made a drastic change and they don't properly look before they leap. And they can end up very easily in deep trouble. And it's not something that they ever learn from either. So they repeat it again and again. Can you imagine how exhausting that must be? Now, the moment the narcissist's life is not going well, when they're not, where they think that they should be, and where they're not being treated like a goddess, when they're not being worshipped, basically, they're not happy. To be honest with you, they're never happy anyway. Even if you are worshipping them, there's going to come a time when they decide the grass is greener. But they are happier, of course, in positions where they are getting that worship and they've got full control over day-to-day life. But you see, in the world, it's very rare when you step outside of your own house that you're going to have those conditions that you want. Inside your house, you could be ruling the roost, but the moment that you step out into the big wide world, you're going to be faced with reality. And most narcissists do actually have to work a real job. And the problem is, most of the time, they're not going to be the lord or the lady of the manor. They're just a regular worker. They've got a supervisor, they've got a boss. And that boss tells them what they should be doing, and occasionally will tell them that their work isn't good. Whatever the case might be, when it just doesn't fit with the narcissist's grandiosity and their idea of how life should be and how they should be treated, they can jeopardize a stable career, a stable position, a stable relationship, a stable living condition, just in a heartbeat based on their emotions at that moment. And they won't just ruin it a little bit. They are going to blow it up. They're going to blow the bridge. So it's going to make returning completely impossible. And they do this also with their relationships with people too. Now, even though they may try to return, people just don't want anything to do with them. They blow it up like an atomic bomb, and it ruins opportunities, which is when you might see a narcissist moving and changing appearance, even changing personas. They do this often because they think that if they become somebody new in their different life scenarios and different relationships, this is a way to avoid karma. This is a way to disassociate with things that you've done in the past along the way, and the narcissist can say, I can't be held accountable. I can't be responsible for the things that I didn't do. That was somebody else. But of course, any healthy person knows that you cannot disassociate from anything that you have done. You are still the same person. You are still accountable. And with the narcissist magical thinking, they can never stop for a second to see what is continuing in their story. With their multitude of characters and their performances, it's always them, but they're repeating the same things over and over and over and over and over. They keep on coming back to square one, however much they advance. And I spoke about this before. It's like a game of snakes and ladders. They're going to try to jump ahead to squares because they think that the square that they're on isn't so good and a square ahead might be better. So they might step on that next square and it might take them on a few more squares, but then it leads to a massive snake that takes them even further back down to where they actually started. And this is the tragedy of their life. And honestly, they deserve it. They actually do deserve it, and it's torment. But you better be assured that when they meet new people, it might start off wonderfully, it usually does, but it won't last for long before it's all going to turn to dust. When you've got no capacity for any depth or any love or for any true connection in life, and all that you're doing is going around using people, you are forever going to be holding dust. The truth is, the narcissist is not a likable character. And once you get to know them on a deeper level, you find out they're spiteful, aggressive, they're exploitative, they're impossible to get along with unless you do everything that they want you to do. But the narcissist thinks that everybody should just fall to the floor in absolute awe to have them in their life. And they feel like it's a special and rare opportunity that they're giving people. And they convince others that, this is good for you. And they like to consider that they're breathing life into your life, that they're giving you color, that they're blessing you with their divine presence. And you should be really grateful for that. And they get angry because people don't think that way. They don't reciprocate the same feeling because it's not like that. It's actually a drag. It's no fun with the narcissist. They really like to consider that they're breathing life. They're bringing color. They're giving you a blessing with their divine presence. And you should be really grateful for that. And they get angry because they don't think that way. They don't reciprocate the same feeling because it's not like that. It's actually a real drag. It's no fun with a narcissist. It starts out as fun, yes, but it doesn't end up that way. It's extremely painful and challenging and traumatic. And you wish for the glory days because you see the potential. And yet the narcissist just delivers you day in and day out their same mentally ill delusions of life that they kept quite under wraps at the start of the relationship. But when it all comes undone, you recognize you're dealing with a really sick person that wishes harm on others. And, all of this, the way that you walk on eggshells around them and are unable to be who you are, because that's a threat to the narcissist, it's just exhausting. It's like going around to a little brat's house. I don't know if you ever knew a little brat when you were a kid and you go around to their house to play. And it was never fun because they'd be really bossy and they'd have to dictate what games you played, where you sat, when you stopped, how you reacted. It wasn't fun. And if you were the kind of polite little kid like me, I'd just grin and bear it and have a smile and be like, oh yeah, this is fun. Mum, I never want to go round their house ever again. This is what it's like eventually with a narcissist. When the narcissist isn't love bombing and they're just being themselves, they're really boring because you're just meant to be there to go along with the ride. They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about what your opinions are or what you think. You're not meant to have an opinion, just meant to keep your mouth shut, to submit your authority. So there's no pleasure in this kind of connection. But for the narcissist, there's loads of pleasure. There's loads of pleasure in it. And I remember once sitting on the beach with the narcissist, and one time I really wasn't having any fun. It was so obvious. But the narcissist turned to me and said, I love this moment with you. And I didn't say it out loud, but I said it inside of me. I said, wow, because I absolutely hate this moment with you. And the very fact that narcissists are unable to actually see what's going on around them, this is another huge part of their downfall. They're doing this with everybody. They're giving them terrible experiences, like really horrible. It's not life. It's not enjoyable. It's abuse. This pushes people away. And the narcissists, they can't understand, well, why are you going? Why are you going? I thought that we were having so much fun. I heard the narcissist also say, I've traveled the world in search of a family and collaborations with people and teamwork. And everywhere I go, I just keep on meeting the same stupidity from people. Nobody wants to collaborate with me. Why doesn't anybody want to play with me? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know why. But the narcissist cannot see the reality. And this, of course, is another downfall, their inability to see themselves. And, to see the bigger picture. They can't see what they're doing. They can't see that this downfall is continuously being created by them, by all the ways that I've just spoken about. Their inability to see what they've truly got, their inability to appreciate anything that they've got, their continuous desire for more, and the way that they continuously hurt very deeply and discard the only people that ever truly love them. And that's not smart. How many people can you say have ever really truly loved you and that you can count on to be there for you? There aren't many people. And when you find one, just one, you keep them close. You don't devalue them and you don't trash them because you're throwing away gifts. And that's the problem with us. They can't see the gift that they've got. They are completely deluded. They don't see us. They don't see anything apart from their own delusion. And this is the really frustrating thing. Now, you can know that you offered them everything. Really everything that a person could be offered, which is real love, total care, friendship, loyalty, a place to fall apart, and a person that's going to help you put it all together. That's the really important stuff of life. It's the people around you, it's the love that you have. Sure, we can be happy alone and by ourselves, but it's so good to share love and life experiences with really great people that love us. But narcissists, they don't wish to have these kinds of connections. Remember, they want power. So they trade love for that. Love isn't something that enters their life because it's not within them in the first place. And that is extremely sad. And you may have heard the countless stories of famous A-list celebrities reaching Hollywood heights, fame and fortune. They have it all, and yet many express they would have traded it all for love. And that's when people really understand what's truly important in life. And, when you don't have love in your life, if you don't have it within you or around you, then you really don't have anything. You'll be wrestling around in emptiness trying to fill this huge void that's even louder actually when nothing material can fill it. And this is the narcissist through and through. Nothing sustains them or fills their void. And they demand admiration and love and loyalty and respect, but they do everything to push people away through their abuse. And yet they still expect that. And they haven't figured out, that this makes no sense to anybody other than them. The other downfall of the narcissist, as we all know, they can dish out the abuse, but they can't even take the slightest insult back. And the problem for them is it doesn't even need to be an insult. It could just be as simple as you saying no, saying sorry, but you can't have your own way today. They perceive everything as an intended injury and a threat against them. They really don't like to be pulled up on their bad behavior or their actions or their choices. They can't face being challenged. The ego of the narcissist is extremely fragile. Yet they are such a demon to others, and they will sadistically and callously do everything possible to destroy someone. But if they themselves have even the smallest challenge to their control or power or authority, they fall to pieces internally. And good people going through abuse can become reactive, and it's normal. It's normal to reach a limit. And you could do this really respectfully, like a lot more than what they could do that to you. But suddenly you're going to become the worst person in the world to the narcissist. You will be their sworn enemy. So doing what's right for you and putting up a boundary and saying no to their abuse, you're not telling them that you don't love them. You're not telling them that you're leaving. You're not telling them that you hate them. You're just saying no to the abuse. And you're going to be made to feel like the biggest villain on this earth. The narcissist will be so enraged and they're going to hate you so much. And this is just one more indication of how unhealthy relationships actually are with narcissists and how impossibly equipped they are for living in this world that's quite reliant to a large respect on relationships. Narcissists are very good at the start but they can't go the distance. They have no longevity. They can only fake it for a very short period until the real them begins to surface. And once again, this is when narcissists will throw real people and good people in the garbage. They didn't do anything wrong. They just stuck up for themselves. But the bully narcissist doesn't like it. They expect to be able to trample all over people. They expect your respect, but they won't give it back. They expect your heart and your forgiveness, but they won't give that back. So reciprocity is absolutely something that narcissists are not interested in. They just want blind submission, and really good luck with that. So the issue for the narcissist is the smallest thing can cause a narcissistic injury, because the narcissist, they don't have an internal structure that's stable or solid. They're actually built on a house of cards that's fully dependent on getting the narcissistic fuel to keep the structure in place. And they have no perception of themselves or external reality, because in their minds, conveniently, they don't do anything wrong. And they're never in the wrong. And that means, again, conveniently, that they don't have to look at themselves, because it's never their fault. They're always the victim. They're never to be blamed for anything. And this inability and absolute rejection towards looking within leads them further to their downfall, because reality at some point in their life is going to give them an honest reflection of who they are. And this is why they're dependent on enablers to soothe the inner child that wants to be told that they're right and everyone else is wrong. And living like this is just shaky ground to live by. And it means the narcissist is going to be rejecting and abolishing continuously a lot of people unless they feed the narcissist with exactly what they want to hear. And to be honest, this defense against reality and what they need to get sufficient narcissistic supply is totally exhausting. But they have to do it because they've got no internal emotional regulation without it. It's the role of other people to withhold the narcissist narcissism and their grandiosity. And that's a lot, that's exhausting also for the people around them, and for the enablers, it's very heavy. And this is a highly dysfunctional individual. And the narcissist might act pretty smug that they figured out the best way to live, to screw everybody else over. But I want you to know that the truth is, they're the ones that are screwed. So I really hope that this video has been helpful. You can let me know what you think by leaving me a comment below. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Take care, sending love, and I'll see you all again next week.